Is your child stuck to you like glue? Your child can't play alone. You just haven't been shown how. Assalamu alaikum, ladies. I'm Umar, and I welcome you all to my channel Al Qawarir, where we talk about everything related to marriage, motherhood, and the emotional journeys we navigate as women. So if you like these topics, then I would love for you to hang around by subscribing. What brought you to this session today? What are you hoping to learn from it? I've got few responses. My child is clingy and I would like him to have a few times of independent play throughout the day. All right, you're in the right place. And another one is saying, my child needs constant attention even when I already spend a lot of time with her. Exactly. And another one is saying, so I could do my studying peacefully after having children too, inshallah. Inshallah. Barakallahu fiki for taking the initiative to learn that early. You are ahead of your game. You'll be so well prepared. Inshallah. Okay. So the reason that I wanted to actually talk about this is one of my very dear friends was telling me how her toddler was so clingy. Now, she has older children as well, but they were getting neglected because of how clingy the toddler was. She was constantly wanting attention, constantly wanting to be held, and at the same time, she's constantly wanting to feed, right? So those are the ways that she's demanding attention, even while that lady is going to the bathroom. The toddler is wanting to be inside the bathroom with that lady, as I'm sure many of you mothers have experienced the same. And then recently, a very close relative had a baby, and she's a first-time mother. So she's so in love, mashallah, Mubarak. Not only she and her husband are so in love, but also her husband's family is so in love with the tiny little daughter. And what's happening now, as she was telling me, she said that the baby is now so used to the attention. She's getting so much attention all the time. Now she's so used to attention, she doesn't like to be alone. I was telling her, this is time to slow down because she is getting used to some things. You're building some habits here. What we feed now becomes their future normal. If constant attention is their baseline now, we are raising them to need noise, to fear silence, and to struggle with independence. And then later on, it might become challenging. Now, this is exactly why I wanted to talk about this topic, so that we can start strong, we can build right foundation, and we can, inshallah, have more peace of mind. More independent play is good for your child and it is good for you. This isn't just about giving yourself a break. This is about giving your child the neurological gift of deep focus. A gift that will help them succeed in their teen years, in their exams, in their salah, and even in their work life. Now, these are the topics that we're going to be covering in today's session. Number 1, what is play? Number 2, what causes the loss of play? Why do some children become so clingy? Number 3, what are childhood schemas? We're going to talk about some schemas. And number 4, the play cycle. Number 5, the decluttering. What does that have to do with play? But inshallah, we'll get into it. And then we're going to talk about the play corners for your kids. And if you do this right, if you set up the play corners in your house, then inshallah, your house will become a trusted co-parent with you, entertaining your children instead of you having to do all the entertaining. And the last one, we're going to be talking about how to set up play prompts that are irresistible for your children and they indulge in deep and productive play. All right. Let's get right into it. Number 1, first of all, what is play? What is play? Now, traditionally, it's thought as something that the children do that's a waste of time. It's classified as there's some serious work and then there's play. So if you are playing, you're not working, you're wasting time, you're just doing nothing. And if you're not wasting time, then you're actually working, so it's academic stuff. So there is work and there's play, but that couldn't be far from truth. Play is something you do by choice. Play is an activity that you want to indulge in by choice, not because somebody told you to. And it is concentration. It is challenging for you. It has clear goals in your mind, even though those goals are probably not clearly defined, but the goals are still there. There's something you're working towards to achieve. That is a child's play. And essentially, play is a child's work. A play is a child's work. When children are playing, they are not wasting time. They are learning so much about how the world operates. They process their emotions, and the play is about healing. Have you ever seen that children from a divorced household would often have these themes intertwined in their play? The themes of divorce and conflict. They might have two animals or two dolls fighting with each other and divorcing. Now, why is that? Play is not escapism. It is reality. So the children, when they're playing these serious adult themes in their play, they're actually processing it, trying to make sense of it. And it's so healing for them when they finally come to terms with it. And it happens through play. If the children are being yelled at, for example, then you might notice that when they are playing, they are yelling at their toys. They're learning and they're processing. They take on different roles and they're learning empathy. That way, one of them might become mother, other one becomes child, then mama needs to take care of the child. So they make sense of the world around them through play. It is incredibly healing for them. One of the sisters is saying, this is so true. Okay. If this is resonating with you, please hit like so more Muslim mothers can enjoy parenting. Now, let me talk about what play is not. Play is not a waste of time. It is not unnecessary for children. It is not opposite to work. It is a work of a child. It is not opposite to learning, and it is not escapism. So I remember one time we were making an imaginative story in the car ride. This is how the game went. Every child would say one sentence. So one of them picked the name. There was a boy who was called Muhammad. The other child was like, Muhammad loved his superhero costume. And then we started talking about what happened with Muhammad. What did he do? Where did he go? So he went there and he did that. And my children wanted to steer the conversation to the kitchen and to the mess. And I wanted to steer the conversation to the imagination. Then he flew in the air. And even though sometimes kids would engage in that kind of imaginative play as well, and that's also good. But then this particular day, they just wanted to talk about being in the kitchen and exploring and making a mess on the floor. And then, what's that? And then while he put all the milk on the floor, Mama came. And I wanted it to be fun. So I was like, Mama started jumping in the mess. I wanted to be imaginative. I wanted it to be positive. But my children said, then Mama said, why did you make so much mess here? I was ashamed of that. I didn't want Mama to be portrayed that way because I wanted Mama to be fun and imaginative. However, this was their way of dealing with reality. I had to realize that they want to deal with the real things and the real scenarios and what happens in reality, what happens in life. So it's their way of processing and making sense of things. So then I had to give in. Sometimes, yes, the play is imaginative, but other times it is incredibly healing. Now let's talk about what causes the loss of play. What causes the loss of play? It starts from when they're babies. Now, sometimes us adults, we don't understand what play is for a baby. Many times, when adults see a baby lying down all by herself, they think to themselves, oh, poor baby, all alone, have nothing to do, looking at the ceiling, so bored. Let me go pick her up. This can't be further from truth. For a baby, everything is new. When they first came in the world, everything is new. Every sensation is new. Every sound is new. Every color is new. Everything visually and how it feels on their body. And their own body is also new. So they're learning how to wiggle their toes, and they're learning how to manipulate their body to do what they want to do. So everything is new. So whatever the baby is doing, essentially, they're learning. And essentially, that could be classified as play for them. And even if they're just lying down on their back and watching, maybe they're watching the shadows or how the fan moves, for example, or what is my mother's movement sound like. So they are focusing on all those things. So much learning is happening. And this is why it's very easy for babies to get overstimulated and overwhelmed by the sensory overload, by the amount of information that's coming into their brain that they need to process. But this is why I recommend that for your baby, for him to be calmer, I would recommend a more neutral space, not a lot of color and not too noisy. The baby needs regular breaks and keep it simple. Like something they could chew on, something they could rattle, but really, babies don't really need much toys. The other thing that stops your baby from playing is being strapped a lot. And we are moving towards this culture of the baby is always strapped, either strapped into the feeding chair or strapped in the car seat. Or inside the house, we're strapping them on the bouncy chair or whatever we're strapping in because we want to contain the baby so the baby doesn't make a mess or whatever. We want to contain the baby. And now, so that also causes the loss of play. It is a skill. Essentially, it is a skill. It is like a muscle. The more you use it, the more you train it, the better it becomes. So it is a skill the babies need to practice. And the more they're let to practice that skill, the better they get at it. So leaving them on the floor, have a soft mat, put them on it on their tummy time, have one or two items around that they can maybe reach towards, and they're essentially trying to reach. And even if the baby seems like they're doing nothing, the baby's still focused on something, trying to learn something. All right. Another thing that causes a loss of play is overstimulation. Now, what is overstimulation? And the overstimulation is the sensory overload, essentially. So there's so much information coming in, and the baby just doesn't want to focus on anything now. The baby is so overwhelmed to play. And the last thing is the attention addiction. Babies become so used to getting attention all the time that they constantly want attention. Because there's nothing better than having somebody carry you around all the time. You're in the nice, cozy arms and carried around everywhere. You're feeling absolutely safe. The babies love that. And there's nothing wrong with that. But then the only thing is, then if everybody is talking to the baby, everybody's giving them too much attention everywhere, then what happens is the baby gets used to that. Then later on in life, for example, you were living in a big family and then you had to move to another country. Now you don't have that many entertainers for the baby, but the baby is addicted to the attention. And now the baby becomes really fussy and clingy. Another scenario could be that you yourself is constantly talking to the baby all the time, or you're working in the kitchen, doing whatever. You're constantly talking to the baby, constantly in their face, playing. Basically, we're entertaining them, playing for them, showing them rattles and exciting them, constantly narrating things, constantly giving them attention. And when you drag so much, when you entertain the baby so much, that's what baby gets addicted to. Then when you want the baby to go down on the floor and play by themselves, they don't want to because they've gotten so used to you entertaining them. So these are the reasons that sometimes our kids lose the independent play element, which is us not understanding what the play is for a baby, or babies being strapped a lot, not much independent play time, or overstimulated baby, or baby being attention addicted. Now, it's okay for children to have some clingy phases when they're teething or they're going through something hard, and it's okay, this is completely normal. But if your baby wants to be on you all the time, then that is a problem. Right. So for older kids, how does the loss of play happen? The loss of play happens with the technology. So if your child is addicted to technology, devices, the devices are so entertaining that everyday life becomes really boring. And they're not going to want to play because they don't get the same stimulation they get from devices. That's why the longer your child is on devices, the shorter attention span they have. They're not able to focus on a task. And they're not able to concentrate on something. And they want very high entertainment. flashing lights. That's what they get used to. And that's what they want. Very high level of stimulation. And obviously, the normal life does not provide that for them. So then they're not interested in everyday life things. Another thing that causes the loss of play is for you to have high expectations of your children. High expectations, like a lot of pressure on them. They need to do homework, they need to do this, they need to do that. They have to have certain skills. And there's a saying that you have to always keep your children busy so they don't bother you. And this is true to some extent for you to provide for them the activities. However, if you have scheduled the day till the last minute, then obviously they are not going to have that much independent playtime. The next thing that loses a child's play is overstimulation. Again, the toddlers become used to you entertaining them all the time. So then that's what they expect. And then the next is the obsession with safety. So parents' obsession with safety. It is a real saying. It's called safetyism. And you'll find a lot of parenting experts talking about that. It is parents' obsession with safety where they're not letting their children do anything remotely risky, not dangerous, remotely risky, like climbing frames, for example. They're like, oh, no, get down, you're going to get hurt. You must know that whenever children are playing, there is an element of risk in it, inherently, in all the activities. There is some sort of risk. And that is the normal part of life, navigating risk. That's an essential skill. So risk in small dosage is healthy for children, is good for them. For example, if your child is only used to sleeping in a confined bed with railing around it so that he doesn't fall at night. Now, at that time, I never learned how to stay on bed at night. But if you make the bed close to the ground, leave the edges open, and have carpet underneath so the child falls and doesn't get hurt, for example, this is a small risk. It would teach them a very good life skills. If you're too obsessed with safety, you're not letting your children explore the way they want to explore. For example, you're not letting them play with kitchen objects like butter knives and things like that. You're not letting them touch it at all. If your children are 5 and 6, you're still not letting them touch anything hot, for example. That is called safetyism. And that also kills the independent play. Another thing that kills independent play is not developing the play skill. They're not given enough practice to strengthen that muscle, not given enough practice of independent playing. Then if the children are not used to it, then obviously they're going to find a hard time playing by themselves. Now, let's talk about schemas. But I'm going to talk about them in a very general way. And inshallah, if you're interested, you can find lots of different parenting experts talking about schemas. Now, what is a schema? It's a repetitive behavior or movement that children do instinctively. It is almost like an overwhelming desire that they can't control. And if you follow your children's schema, that's when most developmental benefits are gained. Now, to make it even clearer, I'll give you an example. Have you ever experienced your child constantly throwing your laundry on the floor whenever you hang it? They pull it, they throw it on the floor. Or your child throwing things down the stairs, if you have stairs. Their toys, whatever they get their hands on, they're throwing down the stairs. Those are all schemas. Schemas make them do that. And the way to stop that behavior is to give them an alternative. For example, they have this overwhelming desire to throw things on the floor and to see what happens when they pull the laundry on the floor and how to do clothes fall and make a pile. So they have this overwhelming desire. No matter how many times you stop them, they're going to do it again. Even if you scold them or yell at them, whatever, they're going to do it again because it is overwhelming for them. They can't resist it. The only way to stop that is giving them an alternative, giving them other things that they can throw, other things they can pull down from the laundry. For example, hang a sheet over railing, for example. Put a few clothes for them purposefully so they can throw those on the floor rather than your actual laundry. The common schemas are these: a trajectory schema where children keep throwing toys, dropping food, or jumping up and down, running back and forth. And they're doing that to learn specific scientific mechanism And it is like cause and effect. Okay, what happens when I drop the food on the floor? They're little scientists. They're experimenting and learning through feedback, real-time feedback. So what happens? The food might get splattered. It might bounce back. And this is very amusing to them. They're learning all of that. And there's a rotation schema where they're obsessed with rotating things. There's spinning wheels, washing machine, turning doorknobs, twirling. There's an enclosure schema, containing schema, where they themselves want to be enclosed into things or putting their toys into bags or containers. There's enveloping schema, wrapping toys, covering things with blanket. And there is transporting schema, where they love carrying things and objects, moving buckets and bags on the dinner table. They constantly want to put more food in the bowl, even though they can't eat the food that they have. And it's all about learning. And it's all about the transporting instinct that they're feeling so overwhelming that they just want to keep transporting. So the way to combat that is to give them activities that where they can transport things back and forth. Put rice from one container to the other container, water from one container to the other. Another schema is a positioning schema. So lining up toys, arranging objects in rows, or a connecting schema, joining things together, items, toys. Legos are very good for that. Orientation schema, hanging upside down, looking through their legs or tilting their head. And then lastly, transforming schema, which is like crushing food, tearing paper, seeing what happens when they transform things. Play-Doh is very good for that. So when you notice your child is repetitively doing something and you feel like it's very annoying, how many times do I need to tell you to not do that? How many times have I already told you, this is my boundary? Whatever you say is not going to work at that time unless you provide them with an alternative, and then they are going to learn what they want to learn. And inshallah, when they get to experiment this to the fullest, and then they let go of that and find another schema to explore. So it's good to follow your child's natural inclinations and see what are the things that they're bothering you with. Give them an alternative, and inshallah, they'll stop bothering you with that thing. Now, let's talk about play cycle. Similar to sleep cycle, children have play cycles as well. And the cycle goes on like this. They complain to you when they say, oh, I'm bored, I don't have anything to do. That is the searching stage, where they want to search for something. Now, in that stage, it would be wrong for you to volunteer activities and to try to solve their problem by themselves, because that would make them lazy. Instead, try something like this. It's okay to be bored. You will get an idea, you will find an activity when you're ready. Or you can say, oh, I see you're bored. What are your ideas? How are you going to solve that? What do you think you can do? So prompting them to think of different activities, to have ideas on their own, to think about how to solve this boredom problem. Tell them it's okay to be bored. You will find something to do. So that's stage number 1. And then they're walking around, they're bored, they're looking and remotely, and they find something that they deem interesting. And they start interacting with that thing. Might be bottle that they start banging on the table. That's a lightly experimentation stage where they're looking for a challenge. They're looking for something that they find interesting enough to indulge in. And then soon enough, they come across a bowl, spoon, for example. This one captured their attention enough that they want to start engaging in it, start playing with it, doing stuff with it. The second stage is called light play. Light play. Now, this stage, they're not fully settled. They're still not sure about the activity itself, and they can be easily interrupted. They can easily get distracted. They look around, and that is the light stage. Just similar to light sleep. When we're light sleep, we can easily wake up. When we go into the deep sleep, then it's harder for us to wake up. So it's similar. In light play, children exhibit similar kind of tendencies. And then, soon enough, they get hooked. When they find something that is challenging for them, that has a balance of skills challenge. So their skill does not exceed the challenge, because if their skill exceeds the challenge, then the challenge would be too boring for them. Or if it's such a high challenge, they don't have that much skill, then they're not going to be engaged in it as well. It's not going to work for them. But if there is a balance of skills and challenge, it's challenging enough for them, they can manage to do it, then they get hooked. And when they're in the deep play stage, that is such a magical stage where they lose the track of time. They lose the sense of where they are, what they're doing, who's around them. They don't really care. They just have this goal in their mind that they're working towards. Have you ever done an activity where you lost track of time? You got so engrossed in it, perhaps a book that you loved, or maybe an activity that you like, for example, swimming. So when the kids go into the deep play stage, then that stage is magical. Once your child achieves that stage where you see that they're completely focused on their activity, you want to nurture and protect that time. Do not interrupt your child yourself. Don't let anybody else interrupt them, because now they're fully focused. And we know that once the focus is broken, it's hard to get back into the flow that easily. So protect that stage. Don't call them to do things when they're in that flow stage, because that's how they learn to focus on a task until it's completed. And then once the deep play happens, they might spend a few minutes or they might spend hours. I gave my children some Scotch tape and I gave them some boxes. And they were working on it, two of them, and they spent on it more than an hour. They got some butter knives from the kitchen. They're allowed to do that. So they got the butter knife and they're carving windows in the boxes and they're using the tape. This is how, when they're in a deep play, they don't care who's coming, who's going, what's happening around them. And it gets better with practice. The more time they achieve that state, the easier it gets for them to go into that deep focus state and to stay there for longer. And then after that, once the conclusion happens of that play, the conclusion could be that either they thought that the challenge is too much for them, that they don't want to do it anymore, or the conclusion happened in another way. They thought, okay, we've finished this activity. Okay, this house is made now. Now this activity is done. Now this play is done. So then maybe for some time they remain happy and content. Maybe they're tired. And then they start the bored stage all over again, where they're searching for the toys, for something to do all over again. So this is the play cycle. Now that we have learned what the play means and what does a play cycle look like, now we're going to talk about how to transform your own house into a trusted co-parent who is going to be helping you to parent your children. For that, we're going to be setting up activity corners for our children. But before that, declutter, so that you can free up space in your house for all these lovely corners. Why is decluttering so important to make your house into something your children will love to engage with? You know, when you walk into a house, if it's got lots of things on the surfaces, it looks poor. And when you walk into a house, they have the countertops empty or one or two things very purposely placed, then the house automatically starts looking high-end. You know why? Because generally, with subconscious mind, we know that rich people have big houses. And in those big houses, they've got lots of storage for everything that they can store away. They don't have to have anything on the shelves, on the countertops. And you can use the same mentality, same subconscious trick to make your house instantly look high-end. And not only look high-end, it'll start looking much calmer and less overwhelming for you yourself. The maintenance will be so easy. I love decluttering. I used to live in 2-bedroom house with my 4 children, and me and my husband, alhamdulillah. And one of those bedrooms was occupied by my husband himself as his office space. So I only had access to 1 bedroom, and the living room that was attached to the kitchen. So the kitchen and living room were one. But honestly, I love decluttering so much that whoever would come to my house would find it spacious. And it was just one room for me. It was just one room and one play area, which is the living room and kitchen mix and the play area mix. And the living room was also my kid's bedroom on top of that. And it was the guest room. And even in that house, whoever would come there would feel like my house was spacious. So it's not about the space. It is about the mindset. It is about keeping things that are absolutely needed are being used. The things that are not being used, getting rid of them. Now, for that to happen, you need to address your mindset blocks. What are some of the blocks in your mind that are stopping you from decluttering? One sister said, there's a lot of things we keep for the next child. Yes, there's a lot of things. But then when the next child comes, do you actually use those things? Or do you get lots of gifts from other relatives, anything from your last child that you thought you're going to use now looks so old and worn out that you don't want to use it for your new child? Those have happened to me, right? So as a mother, you do always think of, okay, I want to be frugal. I don't want to be wasteful. So I want to keep the things that are needed for the next child. So this is one of the mental blocks. To critically assess that, are you really though? Is it in a good enough condition to be kept for the new child? How many things you're actually keeping for the next child? For example, if you're keeping like 50 items of clothing for the next child, that is not reasonable. The next child doesn't need that many things. It is also a bit of a balancing game. And also it depends on your finances as well. So maybe you can donate all your children's things now, but then later on, if your finances are okay, and you definitely have another child, is in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's hand, we don't know what the future holds. And if you definitely do have another child, then can you get things, or even if your finances are tight, you can still declutter and maybe get hands-me-down from your other siblings, right? And from their kids and things like that. So it is a mindset shift and whatever works for your family. But essentially, just try your best to strip down to the bare minimum so that you can free up space for your children to be free in, to move around. Yes, another sister is saying, plus I find it hard to get rid of things people have gifted. So then this is mindset block that is stopping you from decluttering. That is a mindset block. What do those gifts represent to you? Do they indicate love? Or do these toys that you're having such a hard time getting rid of, do they represent education? Do you think they're really educational for your children? Or do you think, oh, I spent so much getting this thing for my child, even though it's not getting used, I'm still going to keep it. Or I'm going to keep it for my next child or whatever, because I've spent so much money on it. So these are the general mindset blocks that stop you from really decluttering. I end up taking them to my parents' house and storing them. But sister, are your parents okay with that? My parents are not. They're like, you keep your junk for yourself. Anyway, it's good for you that you've got storage there. But then you don't unnecessarily want to store things that are not going to be used, right? You only want to store things that are worth storing. All right. So the things that you're decluttering, first of all, you need to find out what are your mindset blocks and then address them. For example, if the gift represents love to you, then the love is received already. I know I have this block as well. Like anything that comes to me from my family, I find it really hard to pass on or give away. I'm still holding on to a few items like that I know I'm never going to use, but they remind me of my family and I keep them. And it's something treasured, especially ladies who are far away from their family and they can't meet them often. And I understand that, I get that. And it's okay for you to keep few items. But if your family loves giving you gifts, then it becomes a bit of a problem. So you choose a few things that are very treasured to you, keep them in a memory box or whatever. And for the rest of the items, try to donate them or give them to people who are going to love and cherish them just as much as you do. And if it's educational toys, then obviously you have to assess again. All right, a sister is saying, there have been times I've been getting rid of things and then later on, I've had to buy them again. And my husband then ends up arguing about it. So it also depends on what are those things. If they're essential items that obviously you're going to use them, then they're worth keeping. But most of the children's toys do not come in that category. Because children generally don't really need many toys. There was an experiment done. So they would present two things to the baby in a tray. One was a household item and one was a toy. And you know, every single time that they repeated this experiment, the baby would always go for the household items. What does that tell you? It tells you that children don't generally need many toys. They're more interested in imitating us and learning about the adult world that they need to operate on later. They're working for their future. So they want to be involved in the things that you are doing. So they learn and master those things. And what we end up doing is we shoo them away. Go play with your toys. But the children are more interested in what we have. Okay, everything seems essential at the time. Yeah, I get that. Everything that you're getting rid of seems essential. But then ask yourself some questions like, okay, have I used it in a past year? Am I sure that I'm going to be using it in the coming year? So those are some guiding questions. And then also a question you can ask yourself before decluttering, is it in good condition? If it's worn out, if not used it and it's worn out, get rid of it. Especially if they're toys. So in the toys category, everything that's broken can be thrown away. Everything that is not well made, cheap, or that annoys you, for example, noisy toys, get rid of them. You deserve to have your peace as well. So the things that you keep among toys are the toys that are made well-made toys, and that are passive toys, not doing the entertainment for the children. Rather, children need to work to entertain themselves. It is a principle that the more active the toy is, the more passive the child is. So in other words, if the toy does a lot of entertaining, the child becomes really lazy. If the toy is making noises and playing and wobbling and so those electronic things, they really make our children lazy, because then children don't want to work for entertainment. They want to be entertained. So those are the toys that you can get rid of. Things that are entertaining your children, the things that are poor quality or broken or worn on condition or not being played with at all. If the toy is not being played in, you've noticed that for a whole week nobody touched that thing, take it away. If it's educational, well-made, keep it for the rotation. And if it's not, then maybe get rid of it altogether. All right, the sister is saying, these kids keep getting gifts from everyone twice a year from multiple people. We have turned into a toy shop. Yes, getting gifts is also where a lot of decluttering needs to happen. So for example, if they get lots of gifts at the same time, then you may tell them to choose one and store the rest away. And then screen them through your process. Well made, it's worth being in my house, is it worth my attention? So the more things you have, the more space they occupy in your subconscious mind. And if you're getting rid of things, then you are freeing your subconscious mind. You're lowering the burden from your subconscious mind. So then when you're processing the toy and you're screening the toys, think to yourself, are they really worth occupying a space in my subconscious mind? Because now, even though consciously you might not think it's a big deal, but you're having to store it away. You're having to maintain it, right? You can't just leave it there forever and forget about it. That's not how it works. So it has a constant presence in your subconscious mind. The more things you have, the more you tend to get overwhelmed easily. The more you free up your space, the more you free up your brain. All right, so now we've talked about decluttering. And now you've decluttered your house and you've freed up tons of space. Here's one thing you don't want to do. You don't want to say, wow, I have so much space, now I can go buy more things. No. This is not what the space is for. The space is for transforming your home into a play haven for children. Now, what is the play corners that I'm talking about? Imagine, sisters, when you go to a grocery shopping store, what message do you receive from that store? How are the aisles placed? How are the items placed? They're all placed to maximize your purchasing. So you would notice that the sweets and the toys and things like that are placed in the front area. And everything is arranged so nicely in an aisle that you want to hold it and you want to look at it, look at the packaging, and you want to put it in your cart. The whole experience is made very easy and pleasant for you. And even while you're walking out the store, maybe one of your child would grab a candy from the aisle, because those things are purposely kept next to the exit. So that even while you're going, you're like, what the heck, let me get this as well. So everything over there is arranged to maximize your purchasing. Now imagine a masjid. How is a masjid designed? When you go to a masjid, you see calm environment. You see people talking in hushed voices. You see some Quran on the side. Maybe you see some prayer gowns. Everything about the masjid tells you that it is a place of worship, it's a place of calm, the place of reciting Quran. Okay, so when you get out of the masjid and you go to a park, you get into the playing area for kids in the park. How is that designed? You would notice that it has rides, it has things that kids can engage with and play with, right? So when you go to your kitchen, how is the kitchen designed? Any onlooker, even if an alien came from the other planet, they might be able to look at it and notice right away. There's knives, there's food items next to it, there's cutting board. You can cut things on the cutting board. And there's a stove for cooking, there's pots and pans. Everything about the kitchen tells you to prepare nice food in it. All of these areas are designed with one clear message. Now think about your children's toy area or toy room. When you go inside, what does that tell you? Chaos, isn't it? Generally, we don't design our children's play areas to maximize them spending time in it. The toys are thrown on the floor, for example, or chucked into buckets, and not inviting. It is overwhelming. And the more toys you have in there, the more overwhelming it is for children. The most important ingredients for a child's playroom is that it should be simplistic. It should have few choices, few options of activities that they actually like to play with. And it has to be closer in proximity to you. Because children feel calmest and safest when they're close to their parents. You don't have to be inside, but if the child knows that you are in the next room, he can hear you working, can hear you walking around, or you're sitting in a corner with a book in your hand, with whatever activity or work you're engaged with. As long as he can feel you close by, he or she will be more engrossed in their play. I would advise you to slowly get your child used to you not being in the sight. Especially if they are the clingy type, it could start as you sitting in the chair while he's playing with Duplo on the floor. When you see that your child is really building stuff with those Duplo, you tell them, I'll be right back, or I'll be nearby. And you keep checking in. Initially you keep coming back. And then slowly you can stretch those check-ins to 5 minutes, then 10 minutes, then 15 minutes. Go at your child's pace and get them used to more independent play. Now I'll give you a task. If you really want to maximize your playing area potential, I want you to think of yourself, let me get rid of 90% of the things here. And just keep the 10%, the really bare minimum things that we need for the play area. And then you set up a play area with those things. And don't get into the vicious cycle when you're decluttering with kids. Get a bag or something and you put toys in it that you want to donate, and then you put them next to the door, and then your child finds them before you're able to donate them. And then they are mesmerized, they sit down and play with it, and they eventually end back up into the piles of toys. So for that, you might need to think of the place you're going to donate first. You can think of how you're going to get rid of, either you're going to sell it or donate it or whatever. Figure that out first. And so as soon as you've decluttered, you put the pile goes in the car directly, goes to the area where you want to donate them, inshallah. All right, now, what are the play corners? Now, you don't need a lot of space to set up these all up. You can set them all up in one room. You can go as extravagant with it as you want or as minimal with it as you want. They can all be set up in one room, and they can be produced and put away as well. You need a calm down corner, you need a mess corner, you need an imagination corner, and you need a movement corner. So what is a calm down corner? Just as adults have their own preferred ways of calming down, their own preferred way of calming down, some lie down on the bed, some scroll on their phones, some go to the bathroom and cry. Calm down corner is a corner where your child can go and calm down. It is specifically designed for your child to calm down. And it could be on the sofa, you've got some cushions on the sofa, a blanket on the sofa, or you dedicate a tent, for example, you put
some soft things inside the tent, a calm down book, a calm down poster. I once made my calm down corner under the table, and I put a light underneath, and I put some calm down books in there about feelings and emotions. So this is the corner to be used by your child when they're feeling overwhelmed and angry. And initially, they might need your help using it. You might have to take the screaming and kicking, unwilling child to that corner and sit with them and work through the emotions of calming down and the feelings. And once it's all done, you can both come out feeling all happy and reconnected. And if you keep using it regularly, then your child will start using it on their own as well. And this is a calm down corner. You might think of that, akramakumullah, as needing a bathroom break, for example. Initially, your children don't want to go to the bathroom. They don't. So you have to toilet train them. It's a necessary thing to do. And you don't guilt them about wanting to go to the bathroom, needing to go to the bathroom. It's a need. You don't guilt them for it, but you just deal with it in an appropriate and a dignified way. Same way when they're tantruming, when they're having this emotional outburst, that the feeling that the body needs to get rid of, don't shame them for feeling that way. Pick them up and help them regulate themselves again in that calm down corner or quiet corner. So there is this calm down corner that's used for feelings, emotions, and then also a calm down corner could be used for reading books, for example. The only thing you're not supposed to use the calm down corner for is punishment. Never, ever send your child in there as a punishment. Because then you're taking the whole benefit of it away. Because now they started associating being in the calm down as doing something wrong and something to be ashamed of. They wouldn't want to use it then. I teach these tools and how to raise compliant children with structure, with boundaries. In my parenting course, Defiant to Compliant, it's got 4 modules, and it's not just talk. I give you practical activities to do to build structure with your child. I tell you step by step how to give the consequence to your child without breaking their confidence, without having to be harsh with them. We can do everything with gentleness and firmness. And once you feel the authority as a mother, you won't feel overwhelmed. The first 5 ladies who sign up after this video will also get a bonus WhatsApp session with me where they can discuss any of their parenting issues, and inshallah they can get customized advice from me. It is a self-paced course, but you can also join the WhatsApp Defiant to Compliant group and go at their pace. Now back to the play corners. So they need a calm down corner, a quiet corner that they can read books, do quiet activities in. If it's really inviting, they can also just lie down in it, right? So this is a quiet, calm down corner. Then they also need an area where they can be messy. They need an area where they can be messy. It's a mess corner. And for that, you can think of Play-Doh, you can think of paints, and I need to caution you with the mess corner is to only introduce things that you're comfortable with, that you can handle. And if it's certain days you don't feel like you can deal with mess, then don't open the mess corner. If it's a putting away corner, like you can fold it away, then don't take it out. So this can be set up on any table. For example, you put a paper or sheet on, and then you give your kids crayons, you give them paint, you give them stuff that they can be messy with. You can give them sensory experiences, maybe transferring things from one bowl to another. Those are the things that might make a mess, like maybe rice, transferring them from one place to another. And only open the mess corner when you are in the capacity, in the calm space yourself, that you can deal with the mess. Children need a happy parent much more than a mess corner. Okay, so this is a mess corner. And the next corner is imagination corner. To set up this corner, you get a table or something, a basket on top, you got dressing up items, you got glasses, for example, the sunglasses, you got some hats on there, you got whatever your child might fancy, for example, like scarves in it, things that they can use imaginatively to transform your different personalities. For example, doctor kit. In there, children love to play doctor. Firefighter kits, just don't make it too overwhelming. So just put one item at a time, one kit at a time if you're putting kits. And if you're putting open-ended stuff, then you can have a basket for that as well. Just put it on the side, open-ended. They can go in there anytime they want, and they can imagine different personalities. And the last corner is the movement corner. Movement corner. That is why I told you have to declutter your house. Make space for movement. The more space that your children have for movement, the more they can run around and be active, the happy they're going to become, the more they're going to be out of your hair, inshallah, the less they're going to bother you, inshallah. And for that, you could even set up a swing in your house, like a hook, where you can hang a sling on, or a hammock, or a corner with a treadmill, and also jump ropes. So things like that. Think movement. Think, how would your children like to move? What is going to excite them to move more? So if your children get to experience all these corners in your house, whatever their mood strikes, they can go to it and use it, and they're going to be much calmer, inshallah. I get a question. We live communally with in-laws. How to utilize a small room with everything you have said. My dear, for all of that to set up in one room, for example, your calm down and quiet corner could be your sofa. You don't have to set up anything extra for that. And your dinner table, whatever you eat dinner on, or any table in your room, can become a mess corner, and then you can put away the mess corner whenever you don't need it. And you can keep some baskets for imagination corner. So like under that table, you put that imagination basket. So then the same corner is being used as mess corner or as an imagination corner. And the same table can also be used for them to sit and quietly work on. So it could be like a focus corner that you can set up and take away whenever you want. So in the same room, you already have a table there, right? If you don't have a table, there might be a desktop. There might be a dresser there, a surface that they can use for some Play-Doh or some washable crayons, paints. Get washable everything. Nowadays, they make everything washable. So even if a little bit mess goes on the wall or on the carpets, it can be washed. Sofa or the chair can be used for calm down corner, and a dresser could be used for mess corner, and the same dresser could be used for imagination. There is an imagination basket that you could put on the table, and now it's an imagination corner. And for the movement, you can have an exercise mat. Just bring it out whenever and put some things on it for the children to move their bodies. Or get like a hook on the ceiling. If you have a very strong hook on the ceiling, then maybe you can attach a sling where your child can bounce off of the walls in the sling. And they can totally do that. So that would be a movement corner that you can take away whenever you don't want to deal with it. All right, so those are the corners. Now you've decluttered your house. You understood what play looks like for children and what the play cycles are and how to have them get involved into deep play. You've set your house up for success, to co-parent with you. Now you are going to be creative about it and use it when you need it most. How are you going to do that? You are going to do that by setting up play prompts for your children throughout the day or whenever you need to. You don't have to do it every day. It just depends on when you need some extra time, when you need your children to be extra engaged. If you got some project coming up and you want more attention on the project, then what you can do is you can set up a lot more prompts throughout the day. Keep setting up some prompts throughout the day and taking them away. Now I'll tell you exactly how to set up those prompts. The prompts are not activities that you give your children and tell them, go do that activity. No, it's not that. It is you creatively setting up things here and there for your children to discover on their own. My sister, when we were younger, she used to talk about decluttering all the time with me, and I used to tune her out. I didn't want to declutter anything. I loved my things. I didn't want to hang on to every single one of them. And then someday I got so overwhelmed with the amount of things I had. I couldn't find anything that I wanted. And on a whim, I started decluttering on my own. As I got so sick and tired of my things, that I decluttered them. And when I took all the things out and arranged my drawer, it looked so much nicer to me. And from then on, I started decluttering. So that is the difference between you giving them toys to play with and them finding the prompts on their own and engaging with them. Sometimes children just need to find their own thing. And just the fact that they found it on their own makes it so much more exciting than you giving them anything. So let's see how you can set up prompts in your house in a creative way. Okay, so for example, you can set up a tent with the stuffed animals or books inside. That is a prompt for a calm corner for a quiet corner or for a focus corner, right? All of a sudden, they come in the room and they find a tent with some animals inside or some books inside and a cozy blanket inside. The tent is calling onto them, come in me. They feel powerless to resist that. They just want to go in there and explore. And they would go in there and they would explore, and they would find the book and they would read the book. So that is a prompt for quiet corner. Another prompt could be imaginative play. For example, it doesn't even have to be a corner. For example, I randomly got out their cars and I put them in a straight line. The cars were not being played with for a long time. So I got them out. I just placed them in a straight line. And I remember when I was doing that, one of my children came to me and he was crying, he was upset. His brother did something to him. He was crying and he came to me, and as soon as he saw the cars in a straight line like that, he forgot what he was upset about. He started engaging with the cars himself and started getting all the ideas, and my job was done. I got up and walked away victorious to focus on what I needed to focus on. So this is how you entice them into engaging into play. Now he's seen the activity that he enjoyed. It sparked his curiosity, his interest, his imagination, and he wants to engage in it. He wants to play with it. Another prompt could be art prompts. It could be Play-Doh that you've prepared in the morning and you've placed it on the table on a mat with some cutters or a rolling pin. And yes, as always, with the mess prompts, only put the prompts that you can actually manage. One time I got magic sand, and it's quite fun to play with, but it's really messy as well. So one time I had set up a prompt in the kitchen area, tiled floor, so I didn't really mind the mess getting on the floor because it's easy to clean. And I put it there, and my children came and they played with it. They had a blast. They made a mess. Even though we set the rules together, the sand stays in the tray. But I knew full well that it's not going to stay in the tray. It's going to be all over the floor, and I was fine with that. I could handle that. And I was working close by, so I could keep an eye. And then when I saw the mess was getting out of hand, I put it away, and that was it. But then another day, I was lying on the bed, and I didn't want to get out of the bed. And the magic sand this time was in a carpeted room, and it was completely my fault. And when I came down, I saw so much mess in the carpet that it became really hard for me to contain myself. But then I knew that was my fault. That prompt was too hard for them to resist, even though we have the rules that it stays in the container. Children are children, right? Sometimes they're in different schemas. And maybe one of them had a trajectory schema where he couldn't resist the urge to yeet it across the room. And the other one soon saw how fun it was, and they had so much fun. But it was so hard for me to remain calm then. So that is the thing, right? It is completely okay to say no to something you can't handle. And only give them the messy things when and where you can handle, only as much as you can handle. Another prompt could be the movement prompt, where you can move the sofas and chairs in a certain way where it becomes like a hurdle course for them to jump from one place to the other or go underneath. Maybe put a blanket or cover on the sofa's back, so then now it became a hiding place as well. So they come and they see that in the living room. They are unable to resist the urge to play in it and to be physically active and to jump around. So this is how you can set up prompts in your house to make your children play and interact with the house in a way that would give you a lot of the free time that you need, inshallah. This is how you can make your house a trusted co-parent that is going to help you raise your children and is going to help you free up some time in your day. Sisters, Prophet ﷺ said, تزوجوا الولود الودود. Marry ladies who are fertile, meaning lots of children. Wadud, very loving. So children and love goes hand in hand together. And why did Prophet ﷺ say to have more children? Did he want the mothers to be so overwhelmed? Na'udhu billah min that? No. It wasn't meant for mothers to be overwhelming all the time. As we all know, that even if you have one child or 4 or 10, they are a lot of work. But modern parenting, I feel, puts a lot of strain on mothers for one-to-one attention, one-to-one quality time with each child. And that becomes very overwhelming for mothers. لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها. That is why the general rule is that you should be able to go about your everyday task. Obviously, you've got your house to look after, you've got your husband, you've got your self-care, and then you have your kids as well. So the general thing, you should be able to do all of those things. And the only way you can do all of these things, even while having children, is to understand that it's not a requirement on you as a mother to spend a one-on-one time with each of your children every single day. That is enough to be present during their caregiving moments, or to have some connection time. For example, before bedtime, you have a present time with them where you're talking about them, or at meal times, you are talking to them. So as long as you're having some connection with them every single day, that is inshallah enough. And they'll grow up connected to you, inshallah. And also know that independent play is a muscle. So once you start to train your children to play, it might not work immediately. It might not work as well as you anticipated. But if you persist with it, if you follow these rules, then inshallah, every single day, you will get upwards of 3 hours free, even if it's initially interrupted. So if you have 1 hour in the morning, 20 minutes here, and then 40 minutes there, you are going to get a lot of free times here and there where you can focus on your own goals. And inshallah, with time, you will start getting more and more time to yourself that you can work in a focused way, inshallah. All right, there are some questions. How to not make your children addicted to attention. How to not make children addicted to attention? It is by making sure that they have independent playtime every day, where you put them on the floor, let them explore, let them look around. Even if they sometimes seem frustrated, for example, they're trying to get a toy and they seem a little bit frustrated, don't immediately come to the rescue. See if they can sort it out by themselves. Either they decide that they don't want to get the toy at all and not be frustrated anymore, or if they work even harder and get the toy, and either way, they will work it out. So see if they can work it out themselves. Don't rescue them all the time. And if they're settled and if they're playing on their own, then let them play. Resist the urge to pick them up. Pick them up when you have to, when they need to be picked up, then pick them up. Follow their cues. If they're happily playing on the floor, then let them play. The question is, do you think it's realistic to have no screen parenting? Do you think it's realistic to have no screen parenting? I think that families have pulled it off. And I think it's realistic to not have screen time every single day, but to keep it as a last resort. For example, you're in the airplane and the air pressure is getting too much and your child is going to scream and the whole airplane is going to be disturbed. So in those kind of scenarios, I think it is reasonable to have some screen time. If nothing else is working, for example, giving them something to chew or to have a lollipop, I think that some situations, it is a tool to be used. Another question, at what age do you think we should let children sleep in a different place than our bedroom? I think it is individual and is different for every family. Whatever working for your family. So for some families, the children sleeping in the same room till like age 2, 3 is okay. But for some families, nobody's getting any sleep. Then something needs to be done about it. And the other thing is like from around age 3, age 2 or 3, parents need their alone time in their bedroom, right? And if their alone time is happening when the children are there, that's not appropriate. I don't think it's appropriate. Even if you think that the child is asleep, they might know that something is happening and that this the age when they're starting to form memories as well. I think that by that time, that they should have their own bedroom. Allah knows best. Another question, how to approach in-laws in their home. And they like their home in a particular way, as people can pop in anytime during the day. You just have to make the best of the situation. Don't focus on what you can't control. Rather, focus on what you can control. Can you control your room? Then you control your room. Can you control part of the backyard, for example? Then you can set up a messy play zone over there. During certain times of the day, is it okay for your children to maybe jumping in the main room? Then do that. So it really depends on you, and you have to find out your solution, focusing on what you can do, what you can control and manipulate. Another question is, I put my daughter for some physical activity in skates class at our park on her will. Also, we thought we'll get some free time. She did it for 4 days, then she does not want to go, even when we are playful to encourage her. How old is your daughter? And what is the reason that she doesn't want to go?
She's 3 years, 9 months.
I would recommend not forcing her at all. This age is very young, very tiny. When they're a bit older, then what you can do is if they have that sort of resistance, then be encouraging, but also take her. So it should be non-negotiable. So for example, I put my kids in one of the sports class, and one of them really did not want to go. He was not competitive at it at all, so he felt bad. He didn't want to go. I told him that the reason I put him there, I want him to be strong, and everything in the beginning seems a bit hard. And my job as a parent is to help you get through that, and it will get better, inshallah. So it was non-negotiable. He had to go, even if he didn't want to, because of the mindset that I teach him, that we don't follow the feelings. Just because you don't want to do something doesn't mean you don't do it. We have to decide based on what's good for you, and this is really good for you. So we are doing this. And then, trust me, maybe after a month, he came to me and he thanked me. He was 5 years old. It made me so happy. He came to me and said, Mama, thank you for bringing me, even though I didn't want to in the beginning. And you did it to make me stronger. And I'm very happy now. And he was really happy. He became competitive. And he learned some new techniques and he felt good about himself. So it's not always good to let our children quit. However, I think that the age you mentioned is too young. So you shouldn't be forcing her. Let her be, inshallah. Whenever she's a bit older, then you can start pushing her.
Let me know in the comments, what part of your child's play is the most challenging for you to manage right now?
That is it for today. Barakallahu fikum for joining. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.